So, hello to everyone who's joined us live for this event. Our aim with our change makers is to provide a platform to those we consider to be making a valuable contribution to the creation of a better and more compassionate world for everyone and every living thing, even when the prevailing current is working against them. We're therefore delighted to welcome to today's event the power of storytelling to change the world, and to introduce our guest and today's change maker, Ray Starr. Ray is an award-winning author of young adult fantasy and climate fiction, based in Essex in England, and she describes her ethos of being to write stories that may inspire readers to rekindle a connection with Mother Nature and the Earthlings that live alongside us. When Ray isn't writing, she's happiest spending time with her children, her partner, family and friends, or walking her dogs and spending time in nature. A firm believer of magic, Ray can often be found stargazing under the moon with a tarot deck in one hand and a strong cover in the other. As an author of climate fiction, Ray's books are published on recycled paper where possible, and she plants one tree per book sale via ecology. It's Ray's dream to one day open the Peridot Animal Sanctuary and Wildlife Reserve in England, and that dream inspired Ray to close her business of 15 years, but to pursue a writing career. Ray is now an editorial assistant at popular UK vegan magazine, VLand UK, and enjoying life as a full-time writer, raising awareness of the climate crisis and animal rights through literature. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm chuffed to be here. I've really been looking forward to talking to you guys, so I'm chuffed to be here.
And we too. And when I first got to made your acquaintance, it was really interesting to me that you happen to be based in an area of England that I knew really well, having worked there in publishing for I
couldn't believe it.
It's quite a coincidence. So we've got quite a few questions to ask you, Ray.
Fire away.
Firstly, you've obviously you turned to writing, which you said was to help to realize your dream of opening the animal sanctuary. But what made you turn to writing specifically? Why writing? What was the reason behind that?
Oh, that's quite a long one, but I did try another method at first. So like most people, possibly, when I discovered veganism, because I didn't even know veganism was a thing. I was a complete newbie. I hadn't even heard of it before. I didn't even know what veganism was. I was one of those people that just kind of went along my life buying stuff without thinking about it, you know, and that bothers me to this day. That's something that keeps me awake at night. I hate myself a little bit for that. And then when I found out the truth of, you know, how all these awful products are made and how I'd been buying them for the last 30 years, you know, it bothered me. It kept me up at night. Like I say, it still does sometimes. So I started a blog, like a nice positive one, you know, sharing the positive things of veganism, you know, what I was eating. I was pregnant at the time, you know, so I was promoting a plant-powered pregnancy, and sharing recipes. And, you know, if something did come up on my social media that I thought was worth sharing, then I shared it, but it just wasn't having any effect. And I found, even though I wasn't being overtly, I hate this label, but it is something that vegans are often labeled with, you know, the preachy vegan. I wasn't, to my knowledge, being like that, but I was becoming the friend that like no one wanted to talk to anymore. You know, none of my friends are vegan. I'm the only one, other than my mum now, who I've converted. Yay. I'm the only vegan in like my circle of friends and family, you know. So I thought, what can I do? You know, how can I make people aware of these awful things that I've found out, but in a way where they're actually going to be open to listening about it, where they're not going to think, oh God, just shut up, I don't want to know this, you know, because that is a lot of people's first reaction, which I completely understand, because it's pretty traumatizing stuff, if you're honest. You know, the way that animals are treated are, like I say, I never really thought about it, and it really bothers me. But just the extent of how bad it is, I mean, you wouldn't wish it on your worst nightmare if you had one, like your worst enemy even. If you had one, like it is like someone's worst nightmare, you know. So I thought, how can I inform people about this, but in a way that they're open to receiving it? And then the idea of just writing a story came to me, but a story that wasn't marketed as vegan, that wasn't marketed as what it was. So I wanted to write this kind of magical story about this girl hidden away from the truth and discovering her powers and discovering herself and, trying to find herself as a human being, a magical human being. And while she's going on this journey, discovering the horrors of the world, kind of like vegans discover the horrors of the world, because if we'd have known these things earlier, surely we'd have made these life choices earlier as well, so but I wanted the readers to come across it from the protagonist's journey as well, so they felt that same level of but without it being forced on them and pushed on them. And thankfully, I'm pleased to say it's working. So much better than my blog was. So I'm really chuffed. I'm glad I went down this route. It works. So yeah.
Well, that's super. That's a really fulsome answer, and it's fantastic. And for anyone watching, this is the book or book one of the trilogy, Earthlings. And Ray actually sent me a copy. When I first got to know her, she connected on LinkedIn and sent me a copy. What did you think, Annette, when you got the book and I showed you?
I was entertained because we'd already ascertained that you tend to your audience is largely a young adult audience, and possibly even mostly female. I don't know where we got that idea, maybe false, but it entertained me at the idea that Graham at age 50 something was going to have to read this book, which had a different audience as its target. And then the laughing out was on the other side of my face, so to speak, because he couldn't put it down. And I mean that we absolutely couldn't put it down.
And it was, to me, I love fantasy. I mean, I was a great fan of Lord of the Rings and the Philip Pullman novels, for example. And I love magic. And to me, even though the main audience as you were intending it to be written for a young adult age group, but actually that doesn't mean to say it excludes other generations and other readers. And for me, it certainly worked. I mean, it was a really exciting novel, and I liked it so much. And you may remember I told you, I actually I gave my mother a copy of the book. I bought her a copy of the book for Mother's Day, and she's actually
you smile so much.
She's 85, and she really enjoyed it. I just spoke to her today.
She's my oldest reader. She's my oldest reader.
Really?
Thank you for telling me that. She is officially my oldest reader. My oldest was 72, now it's 85. And my youngest is 10, so we've got the whole spectrum. This is great. Thank you.
So she actually, when I was speaking to her today on the phone to remind her about the buttons, explaining I was giving this interview to you, she insisted on going upstairs to find out where it was on the bookshelf and pick it up again. So yeah, so she really enjoyed it as well.
Lovely.
So just out of interest, was it always your intention to write for the young adult age group? And why was that?
Yeah, so if I'm honest with you, that's what I read. So I love young adult fantasy. It's just, it's a genre that I love. From Michael Grant's Gone series to, the more widely known things like Shadow and Bone, Harry Potter even, I love magic based stories. Anything that's got a dragon or a witch in it, I'm going to read it. I love that. And it's got such a huge audience potential. So I knew if I wrote a book with a vegan message, I could not market it as vegan, because then instantly that the V word has sometimes a negative effect amongst non-vegans. Non-vegans wouldn't have read it, and obviously they're my target audience. So I thought, what audience can I write to that's just got, like you say, such that wide spectrum where an 85-year-old could read this, even though it's meant for a teen, and hopefully still enjoy it. And that was young adult fantasy for me, and I knew that because I was a woman in my 30s reading it and enjoying it myself. So yeah, it just made sense to me to write in that genre, because hopefully it would reach the most amount of people. And the fantasy element, because it gave me the opportunity to take the story somewhere completely different, so that the focus of the story is magic, and then the message is kind of just I want to say subtle, but I guess it's not that subtle. It's just intertwined in there. And some people who just enjoy reading magical stories can hopefully still just read it and get wrapped up in it and not feel that the message is just too much, So I thought it was a good way to try and do it. And again, thankfully it's worked.
Yeah.
Has the audience played out as you might have expected? Have your expectations of the target audience been met, or has it become wider? I mean, that's looking the case at the moment from what you've
Yeah, so as we've just spoken, definitely wider. So I was expecting my youngest reader to maybe be like the first year of senior school, maybe 12, but a lot of the women that have read the book have given it on to their children, and their children have been quite a bit younger. One of like my most avid readers, she's lovely. She gets her mum send me messages on Instagram and stuff all the time, and she's now started writing short stories that she submits to her school and things, and she's 10. And I never imagined that, you know, but then that made things quite hard for me as well moving forward, because not putting my book in the same league as Harry Potter, but just Harry Potter starts off quite light and airy, and then at the end of it you've got, you know, Voldemort trying to take over the world and it's a bit dark. With Earthlings as well, it starts off quite light, even though the things that I'm trying to raise awareness for are very prominent. I've done it in a way where, you know, I don't want children to read the book and be upset. I have to be very aware that yes, I'm showing the reality of speciesism, but in a way, again, where people are open to it. It can't be like the scene from a horror movie. But in book 2, in Dominion, we move on from the things we've seen in Earthlings to the slightly darker things that happen in the world, you know, and I have to make them child friendly, you know, and obviously the things that happen to animals in real life do happen to humans within the Earthlings trilogy. So how can I do these things to humans without it being sadistic? Because that's not my intention at all. That's not where we're going with this. It's purely to raise awareness, but again, in a way where people enjoy reading it, not thinking, oh my God, I'll close the book, I don't want to read that again. So it's hard for me to write things child friendly that aren't child friendly. But again, I really hope I've done it, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts when I send you book 2. You can tell me.
Had you already had experience of writing? Because you said you made this decision, and I'm just wondering what made you go for writing it. And you must have already had some idea of being able to do it.
Yeah, I've been at like a freelance journo ever since I was like my early 20s. So my previous business that I closed to focus on writing full time was in PR, and I owned a photography studio as well. So I had like a huge photography studio in Essex. It was over 3 floors. It was 5,000 square feet. I had my business like ever since I was a teen. It was a massive part of my life. But when I tried to do photography, I was shocking. Couldn't do it to save my life. I used to get nervous and my hands would shake. I could not take a picture to save my life. So I had photographers that would work for me, and then I just ran the admin side of things. And because the admin didn't take up that much time, I was still able to do my freelance writing. So I used to write like the real life stories and things that you'd read in The Sun or in Lads Mags, and things I didn't really want to be writing, but they paid a lot of money. And again, that's why it was so important for me to close my business and focus on what I'm doing now, because I didn't want to do stuff just for the money anymore. I want to do stuff because I want to do it, because I want to try and make a difference, not just because it's got a paycheck at the end of it. I'm getting a lot of background noise from my children. I'm so sorry.
We can't
if you can hear that.
Oh,
excellent. That's good.
I wish you could see you moving. I don't know if you do any magic yourself, but if you could work on this screen, it would be good.
Yeah.
You've frozen.
Oh, really, am I stuck?
Sound is perfect.
Yeah,
but
it's been frozen for quite about the last 5 minutes.
Oh no, 1 second. Let me stop my video and start my video again. Please select another video in camera settings. I told you it's Mercury retrograde. It
is absolutely. Yeah, we've just got to work with it. Can you see us okay? I
can see you fine. Yeah, now it's saying it won't let me start. Please select another video camera in settings. That's very strange. It's never asked me to do that before.
This is one of those things. It's one of those days.
Could I leave for a second and try and rejoin?
Yeah, absolutely. What we'll do is we'll pause the recording.
Yeah.
So we're just rejoining the interview. We had a few gremlins again with a frozen screen, and Ray decided to leave us for a couple of minutes, and she's come back refreshed as well, and brighter than ever.
Not in that awful facial expression.
Not at all. Yeah, no, it was actually fine. So it was really good to hear what you were saying there. And one of the things for me that about your book, having said how much I enjoyed it, was I'm always fascinated with how somebody writes a novel that gets the reader gripped. I mean, what is it that, did you go on any writing courses at all, or did this literally just come from your, you just put pen to paper, as it were?
Yeah, I'm really lucky in that respect. I don't know how the story is going to end. I don't know what's going to happen in the story until I sit down and I turn my computer on. And a lot of people, if you do, I've never done a writing course, but from what other people have told me, when I tell people this, they say, "Oh, you can't do that." And I don't think there's any one specific way you need to write. And for some people, storyboarding and mapping it all out and, doing that course to learn the do's and don'ts is, the right way to go. But for me, it just didn't work because I never know what's going to happen. And then I open my computer and then that's it. Like, it's almost like a movie in my head. And then when I start writing, I can see it happening and I just have to get it down before my children wake up and I have to stop and wait next week to do it again. So yeah, the hardest part for me is just finding the time to write at the moment, because obviously I wrote book 1 when I was pregnant, which was blissful. It was just, if you're pregnant and watching this, right, it's the most therapeutic thing in the world to do. But yeah, book 2 has taken me twice as long as book 1 because I now have not 1 but 2 children. So it makes it quite hard to find the time to write. But when I do, it's just in there and it just comes and I just have to get it down. And then it's the editing process that takes a little bit longer, maybe because I don't storyboard and map it out, but I have a little bit of a system where I'll write 2 or 3 chapters and stop, go back, do a light edit, and then continue, rather than just writing the full book in the moment in case I do miss, these key points that need to happen, or a character isn't in a chapter and they need to be, and lada lada. So by doing it that way, I still stay true to kind of where the story's going and I don't lose myself. So that's my kind of method, as it were. But yeah, of course, just wasn't for me.
Well, I think you've obviously just got some natural instinct, because it's not just the plot development and the character development, it's actually creating that excitement and anticipation that makes you pick up a book and not want to put it back down. And it really did that for me.
Thank you.
I'm quite interested to know as well, in the Earthlings book, book 1, you based 2 of the characters, Phoenix and Freya, on your own dog companions.
And they're not here today. I'm so sorry. I wanted them to be here today.
I've been so excited.
I'm going to FaceTime you tomorrow. They're here tomorrow.
Right.
So my Phoenix and Freya are mine with my ex-partners, and neither of us would give them up. So we do a week on, a week off. So we have like, what's the word? What is it that you do when you have children? Custody. We have joint custody of our dogs. So we do a week on, week off.
I was going to say sleepless nights, but yeah, custody. Yeah. Yeah, your exonerated, by the way. So what I was wanting to say, that it's clear to see the huge part they play in your life, because you've invested the characters with such warmth and affection. That's pretty clear. Did that help when you were writing the book?
Hugely.
Yeah,
hugely. It's really important to me because obviously a lot of the characters, they're not human, and a lot of the people reading the book, they might not be an animal nut like me. That might put them off it. They might think, I love a magical story, but how many talking animals here can I deal with? But if I threw my love for the animals in my life into that, hopefully they would then feel that same way. And it's funny, everyone's favorite characters, either Phoenix, Freya, or Joe. And that makes me so happy. Yeah, that makes me really happy.
So
Joe's wicked.
Yeah, Joe is the kind of the co-main character, I suppose, isn't he? Alongside the main character being Peridot. I was going to say, in inverted commas, potentially, and I don't know, the love interest, but who knows? I'm not going to.
I'm not going to go there. No, I think it's really important that there's so many books out there for teens that focus on love, and I just thought it'd be really nice to focus one on just that friendship. That one friend that everyone wants that would go to the earth for you. And I just thought that would just. Every now and then I'm still like, should they kiss? Should they have that moment? Do they have the kiss? And then I keep thinking, no, this is about friendship. This is about friendship and family. So I'm not going to go there, but part of me does want to.
That's a great answer.
We'll see.
That's a great answer, and he's a great character. But particularly, the character that really is the center of everything is Peridot, and she shows immense strength of character and compassion. Is there something of you in her?
Everyone asks me that, and I have to say, other than the spiritual practices, because that is based on on my life and the things that I do. I have to say, no, I don't think it is. I don't know if maybe, I can't say this word, subliminally. I can't say the word. You know the word I mean. This is why I write. I can't talk. Cannot talk. But subconsciously, I can say that. I don't know if subconsciously things have come through, but not another character is actually based on me, and I won't say who. But yeah, yes, little inside secret. But yes, no, Peridot is just kind of like the innocence that's left in the world, you know, how I genuinely believe someone of her age going through what she's going through with that massive power that she's potentially got and not being able to control it in everything, responding how I hope people genuinely would respond. You know, if you had that power, you'd want to help people or animals that need help, I'd like to think. And she's just trying her hardest to do that without blowing up the world in the process. Which might happen.
Can I just ask you a couple of slightly different questions just before we move on and hear a little bit from your book, maybe? You've already alluded to some of the reasons you became vegan. Was there any particular trigger? Was there anything that really set you off and made you realise that that's what you had to do?
Yeah, it was. When people ask you why do you go vegan, there's never one reason. There's like loads of reasons in there. But the catalyst for me, I lost my dad to cancer in 2017. And when he was diagnosed, the first thing the doctor said to him, you know, to give him a longer lifespan, he was given 3 months, but we didn't know that at the time. He kind of kept that to himself. Was to stop eating red meat, eggs and dairy, but they didn't say the term vegan. So again, at this point, I didn't know that veganism was a thing, never heard of it. So I went veggie with him, and like, this is no offense to vegetarians in case people were watching this and a vegetarian, but it had the complete opposite effect for me from a health basis. When I went vegetarian, I put a lot of weight on because everything is just smothered in cheese. Like the vegetarian food, it wasn't particularly healthy. And then from there, I think I just stumbled across Veganuary, and then when you do Veganuary, it's great because they give you all the recipes, you know, they show you the things you should and shouldn't be eating, but you get the email alerts with the other side of things. And that was how I learned about the animal side of things, because I didn't know any of this. That was when I discovered, you know, Cowspiracy, What the Health, Earthlings, Dominion, A Land of Hope and Glory, you know, those documentaries that the books are named after. And then as soon as I found out about the animals, that was it. I planned to go vegan in a year, to cut out meat first, then 3 months later do dairy, 3 months later do eggs, then the last 3 months do fish, because that's the thing I do genuinely miss the most. But as soon as I saw those videos and what was happening to the animals, that was it. It wasn't about health anymore. It was just, oh my God, like this cannot carry on. Done. So overnight. I think from the 2nd of January when I got that email with I don't remember if it was Cowspiracy or Earthlings that I watched. It was one of them, but that was it. And yeah, I've been vegan since January 2018. But it was a huge journey, just so many different things going on, as I'm sure it is for everyone. I don't think anyone kind of goes vegan for any one reason. There's the health, there's the animals, there's the environment, but there's always some other little thing in there as well. And yeah, for me, it was losing Dad. So something positive came from something sad in a strange way. So yeah.
And what does it actually mean to you nowadays to be vegan? You've obviously made a huge change in your life in terms of what you do professionally. Has it had any other major significance for you to be vegan?
It's a really good question. Really good question. I just think it's changed me as a person and just the things I do in my day-to-day life. I'm so glad I went vegan before I had children, because obviously I'm raising 2 vegan children and hopefully they'll have a much different life too. I didn't have a bad life, far from it. I'm blessed with amazing parents, friends and family. I've had a lovely life. I cannot complain about my life in the slightest. But you know, if I'd have known the things that I know now as a child, the first time I'd been given that plate of sausage and nuggets or whatever, it's an animal, but you just don't make and I think if from a young age I'd have probably maybe not been vegans again back then. I wouldn't have known what that was, but I think I'd have been vegetarian and then hopefully discovered veganism earlier, and then with my children, I don't have to worry about that, because with them, I'm raising them vegan until they're old enough to understand what the food is. When they comprehend that a chicken nugget is a chicken, that a sausage is, you know, sliced and diced bits of different animal, you know, when they are old enough that I can inform them this without mentally scarring them, because I don't want to do that, it's then their choice. And if they turn around to me and say, you know, they're comfortable with that and they do want to eat that, I'm not going to make that choice for them. You know, that is then up to them. I will be very disappointed. But I'm hoping after, you know, being vegan, brought up vegan, hopefully they'll want to stay vegan, but we shall see. Time will tell. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's really a really important debate and a complete separate debate as well. And it's really good to hear your take on that, Ray.
I'll give them a choice. It's one of those things people always say to you, but you're pushing your views on them. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. I'm doing what I think's best for their health and their mental state of mind. Just knowing my mental state of mind when I found out these things and how much it's affected me, you know, I'm spending every minute of every day now almost trying to right my wrongs, because I hate what I did for 30 years. I don't want my children to feel like that when they grow up. And then what's the worst thing that's going to happen if they decide they are okay with this and they do want to start eating meat? You know, they just had, you know, a healthy start at life, and then they can change if they want to, you know, whereas the other way around, I've made them do something that morally they might not want to do, you know. So I think it's the other way around. I think all children should be raised vegan and then given the choice, not lied to. And, you know, old MacDonald had a farm, and it's so twisted on so many levels when, you know, it is integrated into us from birth. It's just, God, corruption everywhere.
The argument
Mine truly boggles.
The argument about you putting your views on your children, that's going to happen whichever way you go. That is what happens.
If you have a religion, if you have, you know, anything.
But if you choose to eat meat, then you're doing it the other way around. So
yeah, but you're not telling them the truth. You know, I don't have a single friend whose children like physically understand what it is they're eating when, you know, when their parents give them that food. Obviously, I'm not going to tell them, that's not for me to do, but, you know, they're essentially lying to their children. I'm just telling mine the truth.
Yeah,
when they're old enough, they can make that choice.
We've normalized it, but it's not natural. So
no, it's really not. And that's what's so frustrating as well, and another big part of the book, because everything that's wrong with this world at the moment is because we've just stepped away from nature. You know, even the smallest thing, this is where people will brand me as a hippie and a tree hugger, but I won't lie. You know, even the act of wearing shoes, you know, just like we're separating ourselves from the earth, which is, you know, our energy source, you know, the thing that makes you feel good, that gives you, you know, just the, you know, that feeling you get when you take your shoes off and you put your feet in the sand or the sea. You feel that when you walk through grass as well, you know, just people just aren't aware of it because we're separated from it all the time. You know, just as soon as you embrace nature back into your life, you become happier, you become healthier, and life just becomes better. You know, we're so segregated from it, and it's such a shame because nature's amazing. I'm looking at a tree out my window. It's just the best, you know.
It's quite interesting you say that. It's quite interesting to say about the feet as well, because we live on a third floor of an apartment, so we actually don't get to, unless we, you know, physically go down 3 flights of stairs and then obviously walk on the streets, we don't get to have that connection with the earth, if you like. You know, when we're in the home, but we also get out into the trees a lot and we walk along, and that is so important. We could have a whole other discussion and interview about trees and things like that. I found them fascinating.
Flowers, about bugs.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
bees.
one of the things I wanted to go back to, I mean, you mentioned about your father, and there was a particular thing about how Peridot, the main character, got her name. Did you want to just say a bit?
Yeah, so before he passed, again, he knew he was going to die. I was under this weird illusion that just, oh, Dad's got cancer, but he's going to be fine. I didn't know my dad was going to die. And I remember him sitting me down and passing me this ring and saying, you know, when my time comes, sorry if I start crying, will you wear this when I'm gone? I wear it every day. And yeah, if you can see, it's just a, doesn't worth nothing monetary wise, but just, you know, it's just a plain silver band with a peridot in it. And I had her name before I had the story. It was just because he knew, you know, and he just, yeah, he was the best.
And I'm sure I'd be extremely proud of you for what you've accomplished and what you're going on to accomplish as well. You've also agreed very kindly to read a small, a short excerpts from the book. And
I'm going to try.
Yeah, I wondered
Again, I can write, I cannot speak. So we're going to get a lot of tongue
you heard
tie.
you heard me earlier as well. But I wondered if you could also just maybe say why you specifically chose the part of what you're going to read.
Yeah, of course I can. I've got to find it. So there's so many passages in this book, and it was hard to choose which ones to go with. But I didn't want to read the beginning of the book because it's one of those books where the beginning is also the end. So you jump straight into the action with a prologue, and then it takes you right back to the beginning, and you watch Peridot grow up and discover all these things. So it's I guess what you'd call a bit of a slow burn up to kind of chapter 5, 6 maybe, and then it's just so I wanted to give you one of the and I thought a good insight to go with would be when Peridot discovers the livestock held captive at what is called in the Earthlings world an AI station, and how she responds to that. And I hope you enjoy. Yeah.
Okay.
God, I'm nervous to read this. I'm awful. When I do school visits, I have to do read a chapter in front of 400 children, and I can do that fine. In front of adults, I did a book signing in front of 10 adults. I was shaking. I'm no good in front of adults. It's strange.
There aren't too many people right now. Just
so I've just got to find it. So here's somewhere.
Yeah, it's just to put some context into the book for people, anyone that's listening as well, that one of the things that Ray mentioned was it was a slow burn. And I think it works really well in terms of the book because you get to know Peridot, the main character, you get to know her background and her life. And I think that's so important because you invest, you become to love that character. And therefore what happens to her from then on, you really care. And I think that's so important. It's just like when you watch a film and on TV, often you'll see the background and just the normality, and then suddenly the plot starts to develop, and so that's so important. So when you're ready, Ray, if you can...
I'm very nearly there. Sorry, I'm torn between two now. I don't know, before the water or in the water. When she first sees them or in the water, you decide. I can't decide.
When she first what? Sorry.
When she first sees them or when she first sees them.
Yeah.
When she first sees them. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So just to give context, this is at page 174 in the book. So it is a bit of a leap. It's not the beginning of the book, but I just want to give some insight so people can kind of see where it's going. So it's not what I expected. From the outside, I'd even go as far as to say, it looks nice. A quaint farm in the middle of the countryside. Meadows flourish with blooming wildflowers on either side. Cows graze in lush fields of green, and just past the barns and surrounding buildings, the only thing out of place is the noise. Not continuous, but now and then a strangled female cry assaults my ears, making me feel sick to the pit of my stomach. What's happening down there? You don't want to know, Phoenix replies, not meeting my gaze. I do. Later, he shakes his head firmly. It will make you angry and you'll lose control. Trust me, it makes me angry and it's not even my kind. For now, we'll stay hidden while we come up with a plan to get you and out of here. I sigh in frustration, but he's right. I can't lose control of my emotions again. My hands are clammy already and we're still a kilometre from the area itself. I need to prepare for what's down there before I see or hear about it. Begrudgingly, I head back towards the shadow of the trees. The sun is blanketed by clouds, making the air chilly. I pull my cloak on while Phoenix skirts the area to check it's safe. How are we going to get Ewan out of there, I ask, trying not to feel defeated before we started. There are at least 100 cows down there. We don't stand a chance if we're seen. I have a plan. Phoenix senses my worry, but it requires you to control one of the elements to do it. Which element? I hope it's not air or fire after my last 2 attempts. Water. I'm Pisces, so by nature, this should be my strongest element. I perk up a little, trying to feel determined. What's the plan? I need you to create a diversion so that I can break the children free. The children? We're freeing them all. We may as well try whilst we're here. Whilst the cows are trying to get the livestock back in the barns, I should be able to get Ewan out unnoticed. Livestock? Sorry, that's what they call the children. I don't allow myself to dwell on the terminology that makes my tummy rumble with anger. How do I create a diversion? There's a river running past the AI station. I need you to create a flood with it. The cows won't be able to stop the water and they'll let the children out of their pens. Whilst they're distracted, I'll find Ewan. It's not the masterful plan I was hoping for, but I don't have anything better. It'll have to do. I'll need to practice with water first. I look around. There's a brook down the hill that leads into the river. We'll await nightfall, then head down there. Try to get some rest for now. I'll keep watch. I'm surprisingly tired from the healing and the hiking, so I don't argue and lay my head down on the ground, pulling my cloak around tightly. Quicker than expected, sleep finds me. I wake groggily a few hours into the darkness, and looking up, there's no sight of the moon, just the odd star peeking out from behind a sea of clouds. Are you ready? Phoenix sits beside me, sniffing the air. A strong wind blows in from the east, bringing with it cinders of ash we'd left behind. Let's do this. I'm itching to get Ewan out of there. The AI station no longer looks quaint in the darkness. It now appears out of place amongst all the greenery surround it. Slowly, we make our way downhill, Phoenix on high alert for any signs of interference. The night is eerily still and we aren't disturbed. As we approach the brook, I allow the tinkling of water to soothe my increasing anxiety. I feel like we're being watched. Phoenix, I whisper, do you smell anything? It's hard to tell, he whispers back. The ash from the forest is masking any scent. Do you sense something? Maybe, it's too quiet. Let's make this a quick practice, then we'll find shelter, he agrees, sitting down beside the water's edge. I join him hurriedly, taking off my boots, rolling up my trousers and paddling out ankle depth. The coolness of the water calms my mind as I try to push away the foreignness of the night. Closing my eyes, I imagine I'm back home in my favourite spot underneath the tree by the pond. I can picture the aged bark towering over me, the bramble bushes, the stillness of the water, the occasional whinny from Roland and Amy. I smile despite myself and begin to relax. My shoulders, once tight and scrunched up in anticipation, loosen as my arms sway freely. Knowing what I need to do, I imagine water rising. Gallons rapidly flowing from the distant sea to the river, overflowing into the brook where I now stand. A cold splash to my front makes my eyes open. Phoenix, look, I exclaim softly. He grins up at me toothily. I imagine more water flowing from the sea, and it came to me, I beamed, slightly in awe of myself. Well done, Perry. Your mum and the others would be proud. I wish they were here, I sigh. We'd probably have freed Ewan by now and be back home. Perhaps, perhaps not. This is our adventure, Peridot. We're going to try and get our friend back, don't you worry. I go to say something else when sudden screams echo out across the night, making me jump. What was that? I'm not sure. It's too late for the slaughter collections to be down there. Stay here, I'll go look. He goes to head back down the hill. No, I startle alarmed. Something doesn't feel right, Phoenix. I'm coming with you. He goes to argue, then changes his mind. Perry, you must stay in control of your powers, no matter what you see down there. Do you understand? I nod hurriedly, scrambling to get to the top of the hill as the screams become wilder. The sound makes me put my hands over my ears. I want it to stop. The wind from the east appears to be picking up. The cinders that once swayed slowly now billow past us, causing me to squint. Perry, you must calm down. We can't help them while you're not in control. He runs in front of me, forcing me to look into his eyes. I'm not sure if it's the light, but his golden marbles have a hint of purple behind them. It confuses me for a moment, and the wind begins to falter. Voices from below now ring out clearly. It's an ambush. Kill them all. It's the NA. Stand your ground. Then screams. Screams of panic, screams of pain, growling, snapping and snarling, and in amongst it all, children crying in fear amid wails of distress. Phoenix, what's happening down there? I cry in angst. It's the resistance, he replies alarmed. Perry, I must find Ewan. Breakouts like this never go to plan. There will be casualties on both sides. The cows will kill them all out of spite rather than let them go free. I'm coming with you. Can you promise you won't let anger take over? You cannot let your fire free again. Yes, I promise. We can't let anything happen to Ewan. Before he has time to answer, I'm running down the hill. My feet carry me as fast as they can. All I can think of is Ewan. I must get to him. Phoenix charges along beside me, and we're at the foot of the hill and across the field in less than a minute. My steps begin to falter as a sea of what I think are children rush towards us. They're human, but they don't look right. They appear deformed, struggling as best they can to get away from the looming building of terror behind them. Some are mere skin and bones, shackled together by metal cuffs on their ankles. Others hobble along solo, so large they're unable to run, weighed down by rolls of fat and excess weight. Others are mere toddlers, unshackled, but with metal spikes through their noses. I manage to hold back the screams of rage that want to spew out. What has been done to these poor children? My hands glow fiercely, despite my promise to Phoenix. I set my eyes on the cows far behind, the fire inside me, desperate to burn them all. Perry, no! He barges my legs with brute force, making me fall to my knees. You'll kill them. You're not a murderer, he pleads, his amber eyes glowing brightly in the night. Once again, I notice a line of purple enclosing his irises, and I feel the fire within me dissipate slightly. He's right. I know he's right. I'm not a violent person. I do not want to do to these cows what I did to the foxes. I must control the elemental within. I think of water. Cool, calming, gently flowing water. The glow from my hands changes from orange to an almost transparent blue. The burning fizzles out, and I look to Phoenix gratefully. The sound of hooves is now upon us as he leaps atop a vast body of black and white, taking it down by the neck. It came out of nowhere. I look up to find a herd of cows charging towards us. Get the livestock back. We can't lose all this meat, one bellows, charging right at us. I don't hesitate. I call upon the earth instinctively. Minerals from deep below rise to the ground and hurtle towards the charging cow. She doesn't see it coming, going down by the head as a mound of earth clashes with her skull. Others are approaching rapidly, unaware as I will forth rocks and minerals of old, hurtling them wildly at the rest of the herd. Loud clumps sound throughout the night, cows thudding heavily to the ground around us as the earth makes impact. I'm stunned by how quickly they fall. You got them all. Phoenix joins me breathlessly. I stumble from exertion, looking around in disbelief. My powers worked, and I didn't hurt anyone. Well, I didn't kill anyone. The cows certainly felt the force of my magic, but it was non-fatal this time, thankfully. They surround us, large masses of black and white, dotted across a sea of green. They almost appear to be sleeping, chest rising and falling with each breath. How could something so gentle be so cruel to have done what we witnessed to those children? I look behind to see if any of the children remain, but they're long gone. I hope they're all right. Follow behind me, Phoenix's voice cuts through my thoughts. Only use your powers if necessary. We can't draw any attention to your magic. We'll find Ewan and we'll get out of here. Shakily, I run behind him, fear threatening to take over, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I come to a halt as we finally approach the eerie building that is the AI station. The barns are all but empty, their doors open wide for all to see. The smell makes my stomach turn. The distinct smell of urine and faces is pungent. It reminds me of that first night when Ewan clambered through my window, a bag of bones. It really wasn't dirt in his hair. Within the barn are small paddocks with thick wooden crates lining the gates. Inside the crates lie a variety of restraints. Heavy metal rods lie up against the walls alongside a variety of different size ropes and nooses. I dread to think what they're used for. We move quickly and quietly from barn to barn, the smell getting worse by the moment. Each barn appears empty until we reach the largest. There are no children to be seen, but women remained, chained and unable to move. I know we must hurry and find Ewan, but I can't leave them behind. Phoenix, wait, we have to help them, I cry. He looks back and his eyes land upon the women. They're in nothing but their skin. Cuts show clearly on their flesh alongside bruises and other wounds. Many sway in exhaustion, struggling to remain upright. What horrifies me more is that many are visibly pregnant, bellies protruding with their infant within. Phoenix must share in my horror as he immediately U-turns inside the barn without argument. Can you unshackle them? He asks hurriedly as we approach the first of the women chained. She flinches away in fear. Please don't be scared. We're going to help you. I promise. I try to comfort her, looking over her restraints as I do. I can't get them off without her seeing my magic. The woman whimpers in fear. It's okay, I promise. I stroke her hand and gain eye contact. Close your eyes. Everything's going to be all right. I will her to close her eyes and she complies. No fight left within her. Using my mind, I urge the remaining females to do the same. I can feel my magic working. My spine tingles delightfully, but I have no time to revel in the pleasure of my powers. I must help these poor women. When I'm certain none other than Phoenix can see, I envision the shackles breaking free. They don't budge. Frustration builds as I'm aware every second here is a second lost finding Ewan. I wheel them open more forcefully, gritting my teeth in exertion. I feel them bending to my will, but holding tight and scream as I urge every ounce of my might for them to break. The sound of clatters and heavy clangs brings my eyes open. The restraints all fall into the ground. I gasp in a lungful of air, unaware I'd forgotten to breathe whilst trying to break them free. My head thuds, my vision's a blur as I try to get to my feet. Perry, are you okay? Phoenix tries to help me find my balance as I lose my footing and fall to the floor. I'll be fine. We have to keep going. I try to get up again, falling short for a second time. Phoenix, what are we going to do? I panic. How can we find Ewan if I can barely stand? The cows won't stay down forever. I'll help you stand. An older woman comes forward to help me. I avert my eyes bashfully as her nakedness comes into full view. With her help, I manage to stand. The other women walk slowly towards us. How did you do that? One asks in awe. She didn't, I did. Phoenix stands tall. The women cower back in fear and don't question any further. It's okay, he won't hurt you. He's my friend. A pet? One asks. An irritated growl vibrates from Phoenix's chest and she stumbles backwards. What's a pet? I'm thwarted by yet another odd wording. We don't have time for this, Perry. We need to find Ewan and get out of here. Phoenix hurries. Did you say Ewan? The older lady holding me upright asks. Yes, do you know him? Do you know where he'd be kept? I ask urgently. They took him. She looks away sadly. Who took him? I cried. Took him where? The ones like him. The lady glances in Phoenix's direction. They took the strong boys first, then left the rest to fend for themselves. I don't understand. I try to make sense of what they're saying. You mean dogs broke the children free? Yes, a massive pack, largest I've ever seen, she continues, looking at Phoenix with fear in her eyes. They broke into the older boys' barn and took them. Then they broke the younger children free and told them to run. The cows chased after the young ones and the foxes went after the dogs. They left us behind. I gape, lost for words. Phoenix, what does this mean? How will we get him back? He sits down defeated. We're back at square one. The pack will have covered their tracks if they're within the resistance. It will take us days, weeks, maybe even months to find them. I can't believe it. All of this for nothing. We came so close. If we'd have got here but moments earlier, we'd have found him. I'd have my best friend back by my side. Tears escape my lids as I cry freely. You're her, aren't you? The woman holding me asks. I sniff loudly, looking up in confusion. You're the girl he spoke of, she continues. Perry, he called you, is that correct? Yes, I sniff, wiping my nose. Who are you? My name is Louise, she smiles. I can't believe it. The naked woman in front of me is Ewan's mum. End of chapter.
Thank you very much. That's quite powerful, and it's quite uncomfortable in terms of, because it turns everything on its head, doesn't it? What we kind of
purpose. Again, I have to do it child friendly. I could do that so much more, but I can't, because then my target audience can't read this without being disturbed. So I really hope I've managed to do it in a way where people enjoy the story and get the message, don't feel preached to, and then maybe next time they go to pick up something at a supermarket, you think, that's, I hope, my form of activism.
Absolutely, and I think that, in terms of it's not a children's book, it is a young adult book, isn't it, in terms of
definitely
in terms of the issues are there, and I did find that very powerful when I read that for the first time as well. I've just realized that I got something wrong earlier in the interview when you mentioned Joe, and I was thinking Joe was Ewan in my head, and you meant Joe.
Oh, the older chap. Yeah, I didn't want to correct you.
No, so when I mentioned and there is no love interest because they're friends, it was Ewan, who is the key character along with Peridot. I wasn't making that connection, but interesting that you mentioned Joe as well, because
he's everyone's favourite.
Yeah,
who is based very loosely on my dad, because my dad used to come out with these really bizarre things. Like, my dad did swear and he did curse, but he had this thing, like, rather than curse constantly, he'd come out with these crazy words like Umbutu, or like, what's his other one, Mahoogla. He just randomly shout Mahoogla, and we just look at him like, so Joe's got a bit of that in him, like all the weird things that Joe just comes out with. That's my dad at home, just randomly shouting out rabbits for no reason whatsoever. I miss that so much.
That's lovely that you've imbued that character with some of your dad. I love that as well. Well, so that's the book, Earthlings, the beginning, and it's available. It is available on Amazon, isn't it?
Amazon, almost most bookstores. It's on Kindle as well, and I'm hoping at some point next year it might be an audio book for anyone that is an audio user. Yes, and book 2 is out in November.
I can't wait.
Neither can I. I'm waiting. I'm nervous.
So I think, did you want to?
Yeah, because obviously this is all making plans for a better future, and I would like to know what you would like the future to look like, whether you're talking personally or big and global. I take it whichever way you want.
So with the book, There's no point me just pointing out all the crappy things that we do to animals. There has to be a purpose to it. So the conclusion of book 3 at the end of the trilogy is there has to be a solution. And obviously I don't have the solution, you know, I'm what is the solution? But there is many different solutions where, if implemented together, could certainly make this world a hell of a lot better. I don't know if you've heard of the Plant-Based Treaty, but it's a fantastic organisation that is trying to get government officials and corporations and businesses and individuals, peoples from all different levels, to come together to sign the treaty to change the way that our food is produced and to move towards a more plant-based society. And whilst it's not veganism as a whole, it's a darn good start, you know, because realistically we can't click our fingers like Perry with magic powers and make everyone vegan. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen as much as we wish that it could. Things have to be approached in a way where people are open to change and want to change, and the Plant-Based Treaty is a really good way to go about it. So at the beginning of book 1 is you in approaching certain species and trying to get them to sign a treaty, and the end of book 3 is going to be loosely based on the Plant-Based Treaty, because it is a genuine solution that will really help a hell of a lot of animals, a hell of a lot of people, and the environment as well. Obviously we need to move away from fossil fuels and all the rest of it too, and become a green economy. There's so many things that we need to do. It's so daunting what lies ahead, you know, and the realism behind it is, if we don't do it, everyone always says that we need to save the planet. We don't need to save the planet. The planet will be here until our sun explodes, but will we be? You know, it's, if we want to live on this planet until that time comes, we need to do a damn good job of looking after animals and nature better than what we're doing at the moment. We have to change. And whether people realize they need to change from reading a fantasy book, following an activist on Instagram, buying a product they really like and thinking, oh, this is actually nice, this vegan malarkey, you know, there's a million one ways to get people to change, and the more of us that try to do that, hopefully the quicker change will come, because we've got to change or it's our own fate. You know, it's not for the planet, it's selfish as it sounds, it is, you know, obviously it's for animals, but it is for us as well. So
thank you for being there and doing what you're doing, Ray. And how can people contact you?
So my website is raystarbooks.com, or my social media on everything is just at raystarbooks. I'd love to hear from anyone and everyone. If you want to reach out, do. My inbox is always open.
Okay, lovely to speak to you. And we're going to stop the recording there, and then
sure.
ask as well if anyone would like to ask you any questions. Just bear with me.